The Left Out One. Today, I will share with you about Israel's greatest king, King David. Read 1 Samuel 16 and 17. King David seemed to be born into the wrong family, as his father and his brothers did not like him. When Samuel came to his house to anoint the next king of Israel, all his brothers were having a presidential election. Chapter 16. 8-10, but he was left out in the field fighting with lions and bears. Chapter 17, verse 34 and 36, to save his few sheep. Chapter 17, verse 28. His brothers were in the military doing honorable jobs by following the then King Saul directly. Chapter 17. 13, while David was just a young shepherd and also running insignificant errands as being a lunch delivery boy. You may be doing some low-level job in your company, or you know someone doing a low-end job in the community, for example, as a food deliverer, cashier, waiter, gas station boy, person at the gym counter, etc., but it does not mean that you are doomed in life forever. One touch of God's grace could catapult you way ahead of all others. Sometimes, we may encounter people who seem lowly. But when we encounter such people, please pay extra attention and respect. And be especially nice to them, because God can equally use these people to be giant killers and make history. Never ever despise them. After Samuel had gone through all the sons, Samuel said it is none of them, and asked Jesse, David's father, whether he has any sons left out. And Jesse recalled, "Oh yes, I have forgotten that I have another son in the field." Chapter 16 verse 11. His father must have thought, why call David? He is no kingly material, and Jesse did not even bother if David lived or died, with full knowledge that there are bears and lions that can put young David in danger and might even have killed him. David felt and knew this rejection, and in Psalm 27 verse 10, he said, "For my father and my mother have forsaken me, but the Lord will take me up." From a young age, he already faced rejection, as his father thought that he would amount to nothing. To David's family, he is just a leftover, good for nothing, and of little value. You may be a left out in your family, a left out among your friends, or insignificant at your workplace. But let me tell you, what is yours. No one can take it away. What has your name on it will eventually come to you. You do not need to manipulate the situation, fight for it, or curry favor. Singapore way of saying putting extra effort to someone to get advantage for ourselves, with people to like you. You just need to be still and know that He is God. Psalm 46 verse 10. Keep calm and trust the Lord that He is still in control, orchestrating every situation. And the good news is that He is for you and not against you. Keep on doing what is good and what is right, and your time will come, and God will prepare a table in front of your enemies. Psalm 23 verse 5. When David was at the battlefront with his brother's lunch, in chapter 17:28, Eliab, David's oldest brother, humiliated and accused him in front of the people by making fun of him. And in his anger he insulted David and asked, "Why have you come down here? And with whom did you leave those few sheep in the wilderness? I know how conceited you are and how wicked your heart is. You came down only to watch the battle." In chapter 17:30, David just turned away from his insults. I am sure David could have easily fought back against his brother, since he has the special gift of strength to kill lions and bears. But he controls himself from committing such sins. When people insult or accuse or make fun of you, it feels good to the flesh to return the insults. But if you bite your tongue, hold your breath, and keep back your words, this is where God will say good job, and the Holy Spirit will give you a pat on your shoulder. Romans 12:17 says, "Do not repay anyone evil for evil." Then David went to see King Saul and told him he wanted to fight against Goliath. King Saul also looked down on him and said in chapter 17:33, "You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." Even on the battlefield, Goliath despised David, chapter 17:42, and said in chapter 17:43, "Am I a dog that you come to me with a stick?" In fact, earlier, even the prophet Samuel did not want to look for another king in chapter 16:1, and God had to remind Samuel in chapter 16:7 not to use outward appearances like height to justify the next king, because unlike Saul, David was not tall. Not a single person supported David and thought that he could be the next king. However, God is looking at your sincere heart. About 715 BC, 300 plus years after King David died, during the reign of King Hezekiah, Israel was about to be attacked by enemies as hundreds of thousands of the Assyrian army heavily surrounded the city, 2 Kings 19. However, in verse 34, God said, "I will defend the city and save it for my name's sake and for my servant David's sake." In verse 35, God sent a single warring angel and killed 185,000 of the enemy. And in verse 36, the rest returned to their country in shame. Jesus himself is also known as the Son of David. In Luke 18 verse 38, the blind man called Jesus, "Son of David, have mercy on me," and his sight was restored. It is amazing how much God can use someone who was completely looked down on by everyone, and yet God can reward him with so much respect. I have been an IT professional for over 30 years and properly solved over 1,000 IT issues in my work life, and whenever the family had an IT issue, especially when my children were younger, they let Daddy know the problem and he could solve it. I believe you are experts in your areas of work too, and you know how to solve problems better than anyone else. Do you know what God is an expert in? His expertise is in solving impossible issues. Luke 18 verse 27 said, "What is impossible with man is possible with God," and he loves to use left out people. 1 Corinthians 1 verse 28 says that God has chosen the base things of the world, and things which are despised. Hath God chosen, things which are not, to bring to naught that are. Just because everyone left you out does not mean the Most High also has forgotten about you. Just because you are despised, it does not mean the Almighty also thinks that you are of no use. Just because you are insulted and accused, but you hold back your words so as to not to pay evil for evil, the great I Am is not going to fold his arms and keep silent, but he is going to speak back for you, raise you up, and reward you with honor before your insulters and accusers. All you need to do is be a man or a woman after God's heart. Acts 13 verse 22. His love and his grace. Samuel,